Hey everyone, sorry I'm late.
Okay, morning.
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 So I think for today, let's just go through slide by slide. And then I'll just try to explain what goes into each and then just ask questions at any point if anything is not clear.
Ate.
Parang mahina yung audio mo, Rach.
Talaga? Hello?
Kanina, but now it seems alright.
Okay.
Alright, wait lang ah. Ba't ayaw? Wait lang. I'm trying to log into Sketch Engine. Okay, title slide, not much to explain. Let's just use this template, give it a catchy headline. This can be the sub-headline, make sure that the correct date range is reflected, and then just put a picture here that represents the report. So that's pretty much it. Uh, Table of contents. I feel that the stuff that's listed here is already describes each part of the report. So I would just edit the tawag dito. I would just edit the page numbers. Just give me a minute. Yeah, so just edit the page numbers. Okay, next. So this one, it needs to be a bit specific to the report. So for example here, we already talked about Tesla. So basically, these are the big questions that the report seeks to answer. Itong part here on companies, we'll probably have to change this because we're only doing Tesla. So I'm thinking instead of companies, maybe we can put the themes here. But maybe I'll just change it later on. So, ayan siya. These questions will repeat anyway. So you just need to make some minor edits like here. Maybe we're not in a succeeding report. It's not about EV. So just change that. Next, what we're going to cover. So this is first on the right, you have the themes. So we just listed the themes. And then underneath that, basically you want to justify why it's important to monitor those themes. And then also provide more specific questions under each that help, help us understand and unpack these themes. So the questions here are a bit more specific than the ones here. These are sort of the big overarching questions. And then here on the left, this is just a summary of the data sets that we looked at for each of the themes. The total words, you can find that in Sketch Engine. So, wait. Ano ba yan? So if you go to Sketch Engine, I think it's in Manage Corpus. Uh, is it here? No, it's not here. Wait, saan na nga yun? Maybe it's this, text type analysis. Wait, nakalimutan ko na. Saan ko nakita yung words niyan? Corpus info. Ayan, corpus info. So you'll see the number of words, number of sentences, etc. This number here that says documents, this is the number of separate documents that you upload to build your corpus. So in our case, these are the subcorpora. So it depends on the structure of the data that you upload here. But that's where you get the words and sentences that appear here. These charts, super basic. You just need to make a bar chart and then list the size of the data set in terms of the number of posts here. And then here, it's similar but per platform naman instead of per theme. So just to change it up a bit, I used pie charts. And then if you have like a very small proportion for some of the items, then you could do something like this. But there's some flexibility here. If you feel that there's a better way to represent the information, then feel free to do so. Okay. And then the next slide would be overall trend. So medyo naka-lorem ipsum pa to, but I intend to fill all of that in by tomorrow so that it can serve as an example also probably for when you do the write-ups for the other themes. Although having seen din naman some of your recent reports, the write-up bits naman were pretty well written. So I'm confident naman na kayang-kaya niyan and you'll do a good job there. But here in the overall trends, this is the bit where we provide the highlights of the report. So if someone is reading this and they don't really have a lot of time, we want to present the key findings up front. So that's what I listed here. And then whenever you see a picture, just put something that's appropriate. Sometimes I just get it from Google. Sometimes I go to our Shutterstock account. So you can also access the Shutterstock account for stock photos. This slide here, I feel this is important, but everything inside here is still placeholder text. These are the big questions kasi. And then I feel like having a table like this is a neat way to answer these big questions for each of the themes. So I suggest that we also fill this in. And then after that would be the top line recommendations. Before I already fixed this pero nawala ko yung file na yun. So I need to fix this again, but it will look pretty much the same. On the left, you'll have your top line recommendations. Top line meaning it's not really that detailed. It's just whatever you can fit here. But you also want to be as specific as possible. So if you don't naman have communications experience, it could be a bit challenging, but there are some people on the team who have marketing knowledge, and also you can always consult with our colleagues like sa PR team or sa digital or whatever. So yun, put in recommendations here and then also a justification for why you are recommending these things. And then you'll also notice here on the right, there's this sort of sliding thing that sort of tells you where you are. To try to make it a bit easier, whenever I could, I created template slides. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this feature, but if you go to view and then click on slide master, this is where you establish the templates for each slide. And then you can give them names as well. So you could have templates, let's say for Facebook, and then you could have similar templates for the other platforms. So for example, here, text analysis, Twitter, text analysis, Facebook, text analysis, YouTube. So that's what I do. I have a separate template slide for each dito sa master slides. And then I make sure that the slider here on the right is adjusted so that, it shows where you are. And then I just put the relevant bit here in bold. So it just helps you navigate the report, especially since it's very long. And then if you're fine with those templates, you can just go here to layout and then apply them. A lot of these things here aren't yet properly labeled, but shouldn't be too hard to fix naman. Medyo madaming pa to, so we'll fix this. So some of them are already labeled like Facebook text analysis, etc. But we'll probably need to clean this up to make it easier. Ayun, so those are your top line recommendations. And then next, this is where we begin talking about the methodology. So here we start by sort of presenting like a value proposition for this kind of report. And that really comes first by establishing the importance of narratives and how that can drive business outcomes, basically, or organizational outcomes. So I think that the bullets down here, you can pretty much retain this. Just make sure that if there are any leftover words na hindi relevant, i-edit nyo lang. And then here, you can also pretty much retain what this says. But of course, again, just replace Tesla with whatever is relevant. Of course, in the sample that you're building, Tesla pa rin naman yan. So wala rin kayong babaguhin dyan. And then here is where we start talking about the more, the details or the specific processes that we use in the methodology. I think you can also pretty much just retain this. But if there are parts here again that need to be edited, like this one here, it says Tesla. Yeah, just make sure that you don't miss anything like that. And also, if you have any suggestions for how to make this a bit more layman friendly, that would be good as well. Because some of this stuff might still be a bit too technical sounding. And then here, there's just a rationale for why we use themes. I don't think you need to change anything there apart from, the specifics. Definition of terms, you definitely don't need to change anything here, so we can skip that. It would still be good for everyone to sort of get familiar with these definitions so that when we have our meetings, we're all on the same page. Okay, this part here, this is where we just show the queries that we use, basically, for each of the predetermined themes. And then again, the date range is up there. Primary analysis, secondary analysis kasi would be your desk research. So that's research of existing knowledge. Primary analysis would be the original analysis that we're presenting here. So this is the lead-in slide to the actual analysis that we're presenting in the report. I don't think you need to change much here as well. Yeah, I don't think there's much here to change. And then after that, that's where we have each of these each of these sections now for each of the social media platforms. So here we're starting with Twitter. Of course, maybe in some reports, you won't have all 4 of the social media platforms there. So you'll adjust as required. But the objective of this slide is not just to divide the sections and to introduce Twitter, but you can also put some key insights here. Placeholder pa rin to, vaccines eh. Pero ayusin ko rin yan. These numbers are actual. So what I just put here is, actually hindi pa siya actual. So you can, medyo may ano ka dito. You have some flexibility here to put the numbers that you feel is most relevant. So maybe I'll just speak about the example that you can already read here. The study kasi that we did last year is we compared communities on the right, meaning conservative communities, with communities in the center and communities on the left. So that's why here, parang I talked about this right engaged data set. You could do something similar, but maybe instead of thinking in terms of this right or left or center, it could be themes. So you can put maybe the largest theme or even the smallest theme. It depends. And then just provide some context below that. So ayun, I think the analysts here will have to make some judgment calls about what they feel is most valuable to put here. Okay. Time series analysis. So this slide here is for all of the themes. So it's a combined line chart, as you can see. It's a combined timeline. And then the way I build this is just through Excel, using pivot tables. I'm not sure if there's a more efficient way, but the way I just do it, just so I can demonstrate siguro. Let's see. No, let's not use this. What's this? No, let's not use this. Wait, I'm just looking for an appropriate file. Ayun, so maybe this would be a better example. So I gathered the data sets for the different themes separately because they all had their own query, of course. So I did that using CrowdTangle. Just to remind you here, there's this search feature, right? And then you can even save your searches. So this is what I used for the different themes to download Reddit. And then if you download the data set, it should look something like this. What I did to make creating the chart a bit easier is I combined all of the data into this one sheet, and then I put in another column where I put the theme. And then I think that just makes it easier to use these pivot tables. Kasi you can, wait, saan yung, let's look for the right one. Ayun. So you can do something like this, create a pivot table. And then these would be the fields. So if you're not yet familiar with this, you can drag theme here into legend series. And then under values, count of post created. And then under axis, post created date. And that should give you a table that looks like this. By default, blank fields would result in a blank here in the pivot table. And you don't want that kasi when you create your chart, tas may mga blanks, butas-butas yan. So what you could do is to right-click this pivot table. There's a all right, sorry. There's a button here that says pivot table options. And then you can go here and then it says here for empty cells show. So you can just put 0 there and then okay. And then yung mangyayari, itong mga to, these were originally blank. But now it will put a 0 and that way, hindi butas-butas yung chart mo. Right? I don't think I need to explain naman how to create this chart. But these are the settings that I use for the pivot table so that we can make a chart like this. And then just put it in here. You can follow this format using the same fonts. So make sure that you install the fonts. I use Inter and itong DM Serif display. If you open the file naman, makita niya naman yung font. So kahit hindi naka-install siya, you should see what fonts you want to install. Up here would be the coverage drivers for the themes. So I think a big difference that we have here in terms of the discussion from what we usually do is I believe that normally we would just put an excerpt of an article here. That could still be good enough. But it might be better if you instead of just copy pasting, let's say a lead paragraph, it might be better if you put in your own original synthesis. Especially if it's a complicated topic, it might not be captured just by copy pasting one lead paragraph. So my suggestion would be to just provide a brief 1 to 2 sentence synthesis here. and then also indicate the total tweets per theme, and then the number of tweets during the highest peaks. So that's simple because if you copy paste a chart from Excel into PowerPoint, you probably know this already. You can hover here and then you'll see yung value. So you can just input that there. Put in a bit of discussion here as well. And then I'm thinking you could put screenshots of sample tweets here since we're on Twitter. So an easy way of getting this kind of screenshot would be to get the Twitter URL from your Excel file. And then if you go to Twitter, so let's say ito yung tweet na gusto mong ilagay. Just open it and then you can go to embed tweet. If you click on that, it will already give you this sort of nice looking thing that you can just take a screenshot of like that. And then ipe-paste mo na siya dito. It's probably best to put in a screenshot of some of the tweets that have the highest engagement. Ayun, so medyo straightforward lang naman to. I'll move on to the next. The next is similar, but this is already specific to a theme. So if you notice here, it just says time series analysis. Let me quickly talk about this lang here on the upper right. So it says data set, right? Obviously, this isn't yet the right one. This is part of the template. So you will need to go into Slide Master and then edit this. But once you save that naman, it will apply it to all of the relevant slides already. Hindi ko lang na-edit. Ayun. And then just moving on here, it's also the same thing, but it focuses on a particular theme. So just as an example, this one would be the price, sales, and customers theme. There will always be some kind of headline for each of the slides. And I think you can just basically follow the example here. Like that's the kind of information that I feel would be useful to have there. And then here, instead of just focusing on the highest peak per theme, because it's only a single theme, you can talk about the peaks for this single theme, but doing it the same way you did this, right? And then I just put a glow and then made the rest of the lines gray so that it's easier to see what you're looking at. Itong box na to that says tit for tat, this was an idea that Doi had some time ago, na parang there are like, you could come up with like categories for the kinds of interactions that you see on Twitter. So for example, if there's fierce debate, if there's a lot of argument, back and forth between distinct camps, we were calling it tit for tat. And then if it's like if within the topic there tends to be consensus or a general agreement, then it could say something like consensus view or something like that. So you can come up then with those labels. And I think that just makes it a bit more readable, a bit more approachable, not too dry, not too academic. So it's also good to have stuff like that. Okay, straightforward din to. Just do it all in Excel, so I'll move on. Okay, so this is where we start using the sketch engine stuff. So I already showed you how to download the key phrases, right? As a quick reminder, that's done here in keywords. So ano siya, diba? Terms. It's called terms, multi-word terms. But in our report, we call it key phrases just because it's a bit easier to understand. And then, as I demonstrated last time, you just want to download this. May as well show it again. So it's all in the same video. Just download that. I typically only just keep the score in the chart, so you can hide these. It should make it easier. And also delete these. And then usually I put 30. So ganyan. But sometimes you will also see key phrases that pretty much mean the same thing or refer to the same thing. So parang nag-break apart lang yung phrase. So sometimes I delete. I'm not seeing any good examples here. So sometimes you would see something like, so for example lang it says here Doge reward. Sometimes may kasunod siya that might say something like Doge reward for everyone, right? So parang it's actually part of the same phrase. So when that happens, I just delete one of them just so that the list contains as many distinct concepts as possible. And then select it and then just insert your bar chart like that. Just stretch it out. Reverse this in axis options. Correct the fonts. Put your data labels. Ganun lang. And then just make sure all the fonts are the correct and format it this way. And then just paste it in there. Another good addition probably would be a trend line. So you can just do that. Actually, wag linear. Let's do exponential. Para mas may curve.
Carlo, question.
Yep.
Pag nag-delete ka, that wouldn't affect the score. Like for example, merong dalawang key phrases na sound similar pero magkaiba score nila.
Oftentimes when you see stuff like that, they will have very, very similar scores. So it's more or less safe to delete din naman. And in any case, the scores of the others won't be altered. Because this is
Okay.
just, it's already inputted here. There are no formulas here. It's just a download. Ayun. So that's how you do this. And then just paste it in here. You'll see that this is all inter. And then there's a certain font size that you can use that's already set. Here, you don't need to change this. It just explains what these scores are. And then here, in these blue boxes, usually I just take the highest scoring ones. But if there's something that really stands out for some reason, and then using your knowledge of the topic, you could also choose to put something else here. Pero the easiest way really would be just the top ones. And then there's a keyword score, so I just repeat what's here. This thing that says doc frequency. The way I do that is I go into the dataset. Here, and then I just look for I control F the phrase. So let's say lifetime global car sale. So I just look for it here. Lifetime what the global car sale. And find all. Well, that's a Twitter dataset so hindi siya lumabas dito. But in any case, that will give you the number of instances that phrase was used, and then that's what I put here. I'm thinking these lorem ipsums, these can be concordance. So as a reminder, what concordance is it shows you left and right context. So let's say this is your top keyword. You can just click on this, then concordance, focus corpus. Click on that, it will open a new tab. Right, sorry. Okay, and then here you'll see how that phrase was used. And then I typically just copy one of them. Sometimes it doesn't look very meaningful, so you might have to go through the list a little bit. But you know, if it's typical na ito parang puro airdrops and offers of tokens, then you can just copy that here and then paste it in here. So the idea here is this is a parang it shows you an example of how the word is actually used in the dataset. You might need to do some editing para lang maganda yung itsura niya. Whatever, something like that. And then here, just put again more of the screenshots. Okay, next. It's also text analysis, but my idea here is that we can do it na by theme. So here is your combined, and I think key phrases is enough for the combined. We don't want to inundate naman the reader with just a bunch of data. So here, per theme na siya, and then I include key phrases and keywords. So they both come from the same module. Itong keywords, and then keywords would be the single words, and then terms would be your multi-word. So those are the two things that I include here. And then same lang dito, yung mga blue boxes. Make sure that you provide the discussion here. Oops. Ayun. Just ignore this thing here. It's just my notes. Okay, so those are your text analysis slides. I think with what I've shown you with Sketch Engine, it's pretty easy to use. So I don't see too much trouble happening here. This one, wala ko yung slide na inedit ko eh. But in any case, if you recall, this would be, yun bang mas magandang version to? Ayun, maybe I'll just show this. But this is present naman in all of the social platforms. So here we have this like gauge. I think for now you can just use the picture and then you can just move this around if you want. You can change the color if you want. Here would be another chart just showing the posts and interactions per theme. So the difference is earlier in the intro slide, it's there's no interactions here. It's just a number of posts. And then here, sinama ko lang yung number of interactions. And then if the breakdown is available, so like on Facebook or Reddit, there's actually a breakdown of the kind of interaction. You can include that there as well. So pivot table din lang yan. Just make sure that you drag the right fields where they belong. And then you'll be able to produce something like this. And then here, theme-specific issues. Obviously, you could rearrange these things depending on where they fall along this threat to opportunity axis. Color-coded yung themes, the boxes, and then here's a legend up here. What this means for Tesla, like what's the issue? And then what you know, what's the consequence for Tesla, basically. And then here in this box, I identify the parang key audiences that we've seen in the content that we reviewed. So for instance here, crypto users, car enthusiasts, etc. From your reading, you can also label them as supporters or detractors or mixed. So usually I create this slide after I do all of the other analysis kasi this is basically where you summarize everything and then present them as threats and opportunities. There's also a note here with this thumbs up and the note here with the thumbs down. It's above this box because they relate to the key audiences as well. And then here in the placeholder text, just put a bit of discussion. Sample narratives. This is just an example again from the dataset. So here, I think I just got the ones with the highest engagement, and then that's what I posted here. So you could just do something as simple as that. And then I highlighted the the things that I felt was most notable. So I just use a different color so it stands out. So do I ask, can this be quantified in some way post? Maybe not at this point. We still need to figure that out. But if you think of a way, then sure, why not? He was talking about this, like how many posts were about crypto users. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but at this point, we haven't really developed that way yet. So don't worry about it for now. So this slide, that's what this is supposed to look like. So i-disregard nyo na lang to and then just use the other one as your template. No need to go through this again. It's exactly the same as what I showed earlier. Hindi ko pa pala natapos yung Twitter. And I was just explaining this kasi. And then after that, for Twitter especially, we have the stakeholder mapping stuff, which would be your network analysis. You don't need to change anything here. Probably apart from this, pero ako nang bahala dito. These are just definitions. Here, this is your social cluster. So originally, we were presenting this as a network graph. Pero sabi ni Doy, tree map na lang. So that's why I use the tree map here. And what this is telling you is a ranking of the largest social clusters. So if you recall, yung mga social clusters, yun yung mga people who talk to each other more frequently compared to other communities in the network. So kahapon, di ba, we were looking at pangit ito. Yan. So this blue one would be one social cluster. This pink one would be another. So you can, what you can do to get that data that we use here is, let's say you're working in Gephi. If you export the table, it says here yung modularity class ng bawat node. So if you export this here, you can already get the number of nodes within each of these classes. So this is just a cluster, right? So that's how you get the data for this. And then tree maps are available on Excel. Built in na siya. And then just make sure that the labels are there. So in order to check, you can just double check here and then double click and then go to the label options. So I usually put the category name as well as the value. Ayan. And then here, this would be influential actors in the clusters, in the largest cluster. So for example, here sa cluster 13, pwede mong i-ano, diba? You can sort this and then look for the most influential person dun sa cluster na yun. This is a different network, so that's why iba yung tao. Pero kukunin mo lang siya basically and then siya yung lalagay mo dito. These stats down here, it should also be provided by the dataset. Kasi if you get the stuff from Twitter, let's see. Oh, not that. That's a good example. Sandali lang, ah. Ayun, so this is an example of the Twitter dataset. So if in Gephi you see na halimbawa dito sa example lang natin, cluster 13 yung pinakamalaki. Go to the data laboratory in Gephi, or if you already exported the table, just open it in Excel. See who is the person who has the highest usually I use PageRank. So the person in the cluster who has the highest page rank, or it could actually be degree, really, or any of these kasi highly correlated sila. But I usually just use page rank. And then the rest of the information, I just get it from here. So andyan, followers, tweets, etc. And then the page rank, I also put it here. Mentions, you can get that from the Excel file. You can just count the number of times na lumabas si Amy Siskin, for example. Itong social capital, you might need to ask Tim's help with that kasi meron siyang script to calculate that. But in place of that, you can just use degree. So degree would be the number of interactions, diba? So my suggestion is, habang hindi nyo pa na-calculate to, just use degree. And then label it interaction. So it could be like, maybe I'll just save it. Interactions. And then, kunwari lang, 1,000. So something like that.
Carlo,
Yep.
nalagay na ni Sean yung social capital doon sa script na automate na niya.
Ayun,
So,
okay.
lalabas na. So, yeah.
Okay,
Ay,
great.
Sean, kasama yun nung page rank, no? Yung social capital.
Yes, may page rank.
Ayun. Andun na yung lahat. Ready na.
Ayun, so goods na pala tayo dyan. So just take it from that file and put it in there. Okay. Meron tayong dalawang statistic, di ba? Dalawang metric. Actually more. We have a few. But we have influences is based on page rank. But then we also have activity and interest. Activity is simply normalized degree. Kasi we normalize it because we want it to be on a scale of 0 to 10, where the person who has the most interactions will get a score of 10 for activity, and the person with the lowest will get 0. So we have a standard normalization formula that we use for everything. Let me look for an example. Medyo magulo itong mga files ko. Wait lang. Nope, not that. Saan na yung mga file ko na yan? Wait, di ko hanap yung example ko. Ano yun? Nope. Ayan. So if you export your tables from the data laboratory in Gephi, you'll get something that looks like that, right? So all of these scores will be there. So what we do is for activity, so ito yun, di ba? I usually put them in separate sheets para hindi ma-mess up yung chart. And then the way you get activity is you normalize the degree value. So you have here degree, di ba? That's your number of interactions. So you just need to, usually I just copy this sheet to another sheet and then I hide the rest except the ones that I need. So activity, we use this normalization formula here to normalize everything from 0 to 10. So your new value is the new max. So that's your max. Ano bang tawag dyan? Yung parang may apostrophe. So that's your new max. Your new max is 10, di ba? And then your your new min is 0. So this is basically 10 over your actual values. So yung maximum dito minus yung minimum times yung value nung degree minus the actual minimum plus 0. Kasi 0 to 10, di ba? And then it will give you this. It's already from 0 to 10. I hope I explained that well. Andito yung degree. So, yan, it refers to this sheet. Bakit D? Wait lang ah. Oh, I used weighted degree. It doesn't matter. Even if you use weighted degree or degree, you'll get the same result. So, ayan yung formula. I-copy-paste nyo na lang. Ayan, nasira na yung chart. So, that's activity. And then that's what goes here. What activity describes is basically the number of times you tweeted, regardless or were mentioned, regardless of whether you tweeted yourself or somebody else just mentioned you or retweeted you. So yun yung activity. Yung interest naman, what this tries to describe is not just the overall activity, but actually how interested, so to speak, someone is in the topic as indicated by the frequency that they themselves tweet. Kasi sometimes there are some famous people, for example, who never actually tweet or maybe they'll just tweet once. And then sobrang dami na niyang engagement. So it's possible na isang tweet lang siya pero ang taas ng activity niya. So what this tries to do, yung interest is we average yung in degree or yung inbound engagement and yung outbound engagement or out degree. And then, so it parang it tries to balance out yung papunta sa'yo and yung papunta sa ibang tao. So that's why we average it. And then, just going back to the example here. Ayun, so, why does it say influence? This shouldn't say most interested because this is actually influence, but here, interest. So medyo may steps yung interest. Pero it's basically the same thing as well. You just want to be able to calculate your in degree and out degree. And then pwede mo na siyang i-normalize and then i-average mo lang yung dalawa. And that will give you your interest scores, and that's what goes here. Did I explain that well? Or medyo confusing ba?
Ah, ano lang siguro, Carlo, yung sa interest, kailangan i-normalize muna yung tawag dito, in degree and out degree
Oh yeah, you're
before
right. Tama.
ayun.
Yeah,
May
yung
quick
sinabi ni
question
Sean.
ako. Bakit, out of curiosity lang, bakit kailangan i-normalize muna bago siya i-average? Tama ba? Kailangan i-normalize muna before i-average? Hello?
I think that's the easiest way para yung resulting influence score will already be from 0 to 10. And then also, it allows us to have the option of showing your inbound engagement on a normalized scale and your outbound engagement. So, I'm thinking that's why we want to normalize it first. Tama ba, Sean? Yun ba yung naisip mo?
Yeah, and yun na yung ginagawa natin before eh. So, ang interpretation ko dun is, normalize muna natin para makuha mo yung, para makuha natin yung engagement, yung outbound engagement mo
Inbound. Yeah.
and inbound engagement mo with respect to the other actors na. So, ibig sabihin, gano'n ka nag-tweet compared sa other actors do sa network and gano'n ka nakaka-receive ng engagement pabalik compared to the other actors. And then, tsaka mo siya i-average.
Pero,
And,
sorry, please go ahead, sorry.
ayun. Pero kapag hindi mo siya ni-normalize kasi and in-average mo lang siya, in-average mo lang and then tsaka mo siya ni-normalize. Turns out na pareho sila ng information na ibibigay ni activity. So, ang mangyayari doon is, yung
I see your
magiging
point.
charts mo dito, si activity, itong si Hallmar's blog na 10. Most likely kapag in-average mo lang tas ni-normalize mo yung, kapag in-average mo and then normalize yung formula mo for interest, sort of magiging 5 lang yung parang ganun. So para maging proportional lang, divided by 2, ganun.
So same yung score niya either way kapag before or after mo siya ni-normalize? Wala siya dapat difference?
Wait, what do you mean?
Kasi okay, nagulat din ako kasi nung chinek ko yung old code natin and ginawa pala natin is yung in degree and out degree ni-normalize and then in-average. So nung kinakalikot ko yung interest for the cohort maintenance, parang like taka ko, bakit parang ang weird naman ng gano'n? Yung pala, yung in-explain earlier which is inbound and outbound, kaya pala ginawa yon. So right now, I'm thinking, if gagawin ko rin ba yung same thing na yun doon sa cohort maintenance? Medyo weird nga na parang naka-normalize na siyang dalawa tapos i-average ko yung dalawa. Pero di ba since, parang di ba parehas lang din yung score nun? Yung
I think it should give you the same result.
Yeah, parang same score lang dapat yun eh. So, yeah, I guess for those purposes, yung gagawin ko na lang sa interest for cohort maintenance, hindi ko muna siya i-normalize. I-average ko muna siya, tapos saka ko siya i-normalize.
Yeah, yun din yung
I think
akala
same
ko.
lang naman yun eh, no? So, ano yan? Sorry, go ahead, please, Sean.
Yun din yung akala ko before eh, pero magkaiba sila.
Paano? Paano magkaiba?
Sobrang counterintuitive, di ba? Kasi kapag iniisip mo, like, pinag-switch mo lang naman yung steps.
Yeah, di ba?
Pero hindi sila, hindi mo sila pwedeng pagpalitin. Yun din yung akala ko noon eh. Tapos, may ginawa akong mga test dyan eh. Parang, magkaiba. Sobrang magkaiba sila ng result.
So, ano yung mas prefer mo?
Mas nag-make sense yung nino-normalize muna. Kasi, mas maganda na makuha natin yung
inbound.
Yung normalized na inbound and outbound muna. Kasi nakikita natin yung performance nila relative to the other actors.
I guess yung na-notice ko lang with that method, parang wala tayong makukuhang 10 sa interest.
Wala kang makukuha ng 10.
Wala kang makukuhang 10 nga lang.
Pero magkaiba sila.
I think that's
Ginawa pala ng computations. Magkaiba talaga.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, kasi chinek ko rin yun, Carlo, eh. Parang like yung normalized versus yung hindi normalized muna. Iba. Parang wala kang perfect 10 doon sa normalized na yung inbound and outbound. Kapag in-average mo siya, wala kang 10 na perfect score.
I think
May-
that's. Do you think that makes sense considering what the metric is trying to describe? Kasi if you see na hindi naman sila umabot ng 10, it means na there's some disproportion in their outbound engagement and inbound engagement. What do you think?
Go ahead, Sean. Ikaw makasagot.
Yeah, kasi mathematically, possible siya na possible na magkaroon ka ng 10 sa interest. Pero sobrang rare case. Kasi ang mangyayari doon is kailangan highest sa inbound si actor mo. And also, highest din
Highest
siya
sa
sa
outbound. Yeah.
which is medyo rare kasi either sikat ka and then kasi ang interpretation ko dyan is kapag sikat ka na, hindi ka na masyado mag-effort sa pag-tweet eh. Kasi marami nang nagtatag sa'yo, marami nag-engage sa'yo naturally. Pero kapag hindi ka sikat, ikaw yung kailangan mag-reach out.
Yeah.
So parang ano siya, very rare case na mataas yung in degree. And ikaw yung pinamataas na in degree and out degree. Siguro kung sobrang engage mo lang dun sa dun sa topic na yun na yung buhay mo, pwede siguro lumabas. But anyway, yeah, rare case na siya.
Oo nga, no? Parang it makes sense na dapat i-normalize muna before. Oo nga, no? Pero, kung wala tayong perfect na interest score, is that okay? Na wala tayong perfect na interest score? Wala tayong person na perfectly interested sa isang, sa kung anumang topic yun.
I think it's fine. I think it represents reality. And then also, yun nga, it shows you what is the proportion of your inbound to your outbound. And
Okay.
it shows you how
Yeah.
interested you are. So, kung 6 ka, 6 ka. So,
sige,
the easiest way din pala to use this normalization formula, and then I'll just share these files with you, is you can just copy paste. So, halimbawa here, naka-input na yung formula dito. You can just copy paste it to here. Halimbawa, I'm normalizing out degree so that it becomes outbound engagement. You can paste it here, but then you just need to correct the cells. So, we're referring to G, di ba? Kasi outbound engagement. So, gawin mo lang G itong mga E na to. G2, that's right. G. Ayan. And then, just double-click this para i-apply niya sa lahat. Ayan. And then, if you average itong inbound engagement and outbound engagement, that will give you your influence. That will give you your interest. Yan, average. Hindi ata yung sinabi mo, Sean, hindi ko yata ginawa dito, pero mas tama yung sinabi mo. Na ina-normalize mo na dapat. But in any case,
Carlo,
yeah.
sorry, out of curiosity, yung interest mo, can you set it in descending order para makita ko lang yung highest sana?
Sige, wait lang, i-collect ko lang ito. I-hide ko na lang to. I-disregard nyo na lang tong L na to. Wait, that's wrong.
10.
This is the right
kasi
one. Kasi hindi
hindi
ko
mo siya
na normalize mo na.
Wait,
Ayun, so ganyan siya.
Okay, sige. I guess yun na lang gagawin ko for dun sa cohort. Iano ko na lang. Normalize ko muna before i-average dun sa interest. Makes more sense. Thank you.
Sorry, Carla, just to clarify. So we normalize the in degree and out degree to get the interest score, right? Tapos we use the we use the interest score to get influence. Sorry.
No, we use so influence is separate from interest. So let's go back here lang para we're clear now. So we came up with 3 metrics. First, you have influence. So what this describes is your connections with other influential people. So kung puro sikat yung kausap mo, mas mataas yung influence mo according to the PageRank algorithm. So all you need to
Okay.
do for influence is to normalize PageRank. So
Okay,
this is actually just normalized this.
okay.
Mali yata yung formula ko dito. We should
But I say for the record lang siguro. Na most of this has already been automated. So actually ano mo na lang, kailangan mo lang i-run yung script and then i-spit out niya lahat ng values mo. But it's good to learn pa rin kung how they're made.
Okay, sige, sige. Thank you. Yun lang.
So yan yung normalized influence. So you just normalize PageRank to do that. Ayun, this chart here shows all 3 of those metrics. But parang, wait lang. Interest, activity, and influence. Oh, tama. Ayun, so that's how you make those charts. Where were we? We were here. So yun yung interest. So this is activity, this is interest, and then we just put some information on the most active and the most interested. Sometimes there will be overlap there. Ito, social clusters. This is more of filler kasi nilagay ko na siya dito eh. So if you have any suggestions for what can we put here, feel free to suggest. Napansin ko lang na in the Takeda report that Doy always refers to, meron din naman mga repeating information. So, you could still retain this. Pero kung may masasuggest kayo na iba, that would be good. And then this one here, the difference lang is it already has all 3 of the metrics. So this is the one that you use in the Greenpeace report actually. So yan, all 3 metrics, influence, interest, and activity. Ayun. Okay. So here, you'll definitely need to use Gephi here. So this is what I showed yesterday. This is an ego network. And you will need to do filtering so that it's manageable. Right? So if you need a quick refresher, you do that through filters. So ego network. And then you select who you want. So let's say Lenny Robredo. Pwede siya lumabas. Mali ba yung spelling ko? Lenny Robredo. Tama naman. Pwede siya lumabas. Okay, anyway, Comelec na lang tayo. So that's the ego network of Comelec. And then kung sobrang magulo pa rin siya, you could also put in degree range like I explained yesterday. So you can set a minimum degree. So halimbawa, sabihin natin 10 or 15. Yan, sobrang kumonti sila. And that's how you make this a bit more manageable. And then just export it again. Just export this again here. I use 8K resolution, PNG, transparent background. And then yun na yun. And then these pictures, I just download them from their Twitter profiles. So we may as well do it step by step. Let's go to Twitter. Sabihin natin itong Neo4j. Just click on this, download this. And then sometimes it's not in a circle so you might need to crop to circle. Tapos ilalagay mo lang siya dito. And then there's just some annotations here. Top authority, you already know what these metrics are. you'll notice na some of the larger circles, I put their picture as well as the name and their Twitter handle. And then if there's available space, I also put an excerpt of what they said. Pero hindi ko pa nagawa dito eh. So for example, itong Drive Tesla, you might want to put something that Drive Tesla said here. And then ayun, the size of the circle denotes how important these nodes are, diba? So you can already just rely on that. And then this chart here, this is just authorities. So, di ba, meron tayong authority score dyan sa Gephi, which is done using the HITS algorithm. Itong HITS. And it will produce this authority score. Yan. So, ganun lang siya. And then you just need to create the same kind of chart and put it here. Headlines, something catchy would be nice, and then konting discussion dito. This one you can just retain this as is. It's just an explanation for the algorithm that's used for your authorities. Any questions dito?
None for me.
Yung suggestion ko dito sa stakeholder mapping, let's do it for the whole data set. Like combined all of the themes. Kasi sobrang haba na if we do this for each of the themes. So my suggestion is yung combine na lang muna. Social capital, yon. Sabi ni Tim na compute na to automatically. So just get the data from the files that Tim can provide. And then just provide more information here. Fast influencers is dependent on the metric called social capital. What fast influencers are, these are people who, because of their high social capital, and what social capital means is, mataas yung degree mo, meaning marami kang interactions, tapos yung neighbors mo, which are the people who have a direct connection to you, mataas din yung degree nila. So as you can imagine, a person who has high social capital will have a higher probability of making something go viral quickly. Yun naman yung definition ng viral, di ba? So that's why we're calling them fast influencers. This is based on a paper that we saw, an academic paper. There are some shortcomings in this academic paper, but I feel like it's well thought out and we can use it for now for fast influencers. Although, may suggestion din si Tim na baka hindi social capital, baka closeness yung gagamitin natin dito. Closeness is also automatically calculated, so you don't need to worry about that. But those are the two options.
Possible? I don't think fast influencer on closeness.
Kasi
I don't
parang
know,
I
I don't know, but
remember,
this-
kasi yeah, parang the later it is, mas maganda yung closeness as a
Oo.
predictor.
Pero
Sige,
pag
so let's
the
just stick to social capital na lang, mas sure tayo
Yeah,
dun.
yeah. I think yung issue ko lang is yung name, yung fast influencers. Kasi ano lang may mga iba dyan na nakuha na potential sila na kaya nila mag-tap ng big, ng buong network. Pero in a lot of cases, usually they're just silent. Parang may large potential sila of reach, but then they're just silent. Yun lang. I think yun yung parang, parang yun yung magandang palitan na name. Imbis na fast influencers like, ano ba yun? Late time at saka early time influencer. Parang gano'n. But,
Pwedeng,
it's
yeah,
up to-
pwedeng ganun.
up for discussion.
This might be a bit misleading. So, just so I remember, maybe let's put it here.
early time. But, it's up for discussion. Yun lang naman yung suggestion ko dyan. Pero kasi, what is early time influencer? Pag tinanong ng client. So, I don't know. But then, I would
I think
suggest
it's
siguro-
more in keeping with the paper. Pero they also did use the term fast influencers.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did. Pero it's ano siya in the use case na meron ka ng time eh. So, nilagay kasi nila in a timeline, 'di ba? Yung early and then yung late. So, parang pinapredict nila if yung early na influence would also replicate dun sa pinaka-late na network. Yeah. Yeah. It's confusing, the paper, but yeah, I would agree with Carl na maganda actually yung paper.
Give me 1 minute, CR lang ako. Okay. Does it feel overwhelming at this point? For the analysts?
For me, siguro a bit kasi I wasn't able to attend the training kahapon and a great deal of that was shown here. So siguro I'll just watch the video first from yesterday and watch this again para mas magets ko siya.
All right.
Pero
sige.
yung iba, how about you guys?
Feeling ko kailangan ko ng copy nitong PowerPoint ni Carlo para lang makita ko rin yung ibang parts earlier. Ayun.
Yeah, I'll definitely share this, and then as you build the slides over the next few days, but please try to enjoy the long weekend as much as you can. Just ask me whatever, anytime, and then I'll help out. Okay,
So
so
all
yun
the
yung,
files,
yep,
sorry,
yep.
all the files that you showed kanina, I'm thinking para lang mabilis siyang mabalikan, i-compile ko sa Google Drive folder. So, pasend na lang.
Okay,
Yung all the Excel files you showed, the PowerPoint. Yeah.
I can set up the Google folder na lang, kasi I'll need to do some organizing of the files. Sobrang gulo kasi ng mga folders ko. And I
Okay,
need to
sige.
rename some of them. So, ayusin ko na lang, and then I'll give you access probably around 2 o'clock or so.
Okay. Tapos, Carlo, just para lang alam na natin what would be the next action steps. Which ones specifically here yung kulang pa na slides?
I think yung kulang na slides would be yung per theme na analysis. So that would be yung ganito, yung timeline per theme,
Okay.
and then yung sketch engine stuff per theme. Itong stakeholder mapping medyo gawa na siya at this point eh.
Mhm.
So you might not actually have to do. Wait, is this? Yeah, you might not actually have to do yung mga ganito for now. But I already put in the tutorial in any case kasi next time kayo na yung gagawa niyan eh. Yeah. Pero yung kulang would be yung per theme ng mga ganito. No, not that. Yung per theme ng mga ganito.
So, slide 17 and
Yeah, pero mamaya pa tayong, ito, 30, 31,
okay.
32. Yan. So there are a few things pa. Basta yung per theme na slides basically. And then yung ganito. This is actually super easy. Yung sketch engine na yung mga pinamadaling parts eh.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we had those fast influencers or early time influencers, right? We also have the change drivers. So these are the people with high clustering coefficient. This is also automatically calculated for you, and you just need to normalize it again. So ayan siya, clustering coefficient. We call it tie strength. So when we label the metric here, just so it's a bit more layman friendly, tie strength yung ginagamit natin. And then similar to before, just provide the relevant metrics here, a little bit of information. Sometimes before, to save time, sometimes I just copy the description that they have on their Twitter profile. And then sometimes it's substantial enough. Sometimes it's not, in which case you might need to add a little bit. Yun. So there's some flexibility here naman. Okay. And then for Twitter, we also have the largest social cluster. Here I put second largest just because it's possible that this could already have been the largest. But typically you would put one slide like this for the largest social cluster. And then another one for the densest social cluster, meaning they had the highest average clustering coefficient sa community. But then we also have a cutoff kasi usually the smaller community, the higher the clustering coefficient. And that makes sense because let's say tatlo lang tayo nag-uusap. Most likely our interactions are with everyone in the 3-person group, right? So yung clustering coefficient natin 1 lahat tayo. But the bigger the cluster is, most often there are some people who don't interact with everyone else. So we're looking for the ones na mataas ang average clustering coefficient pero may sufficient number of members to warrant closer examination. So we just set the cutoff at 50 members. But that depends. This cannot be adjusted din naman. Ayun, so that's for Twitter. The rest are actually very similar, but I think it's worth going through them pa rin in our remaining time. So let's try to end by 12. And then also allot some time for questions. There are just a few differences. So we still have the same kind of section divider, which introduces Facebook. I put here the interactions, posts, comments, and shares. I think you can just keep using these data points. And then just change. No? Actually, wala na kayong babaguhin dito eh. Ako naman yung mag-fill in nitong mga ganito. But for next time, you can just retain that. I already talked about this slide. Don't use this format. Use this format here. Kasi mas tama to eh. No need to explain this again. This is your time series for all themes. This is your time series for... And then that's followed by... Kulang-kulang pa yung slides dito eh. Pero earlier, di ba, that was followed by a time series for a specific theme. So maybe I'll just copy that here. So it's easier. And then let's put a note lang. Placeholder. Ayan. Actually, para less confusing, copy na rin natin to.
Carlo,
Yep.
may worry lang ako na baka ma-US box ulit to.
Oo nga eh. It's very dense. Eh.
Intended ba siya to be as dense as this? Or babawasan eventually?
I think pwede pa naman siyang bawasan. So like Doy said naman, we put in a lot and then we pare it down. I think it's still useful to have a lot here kasi parang ito yung panligaw natin sa prospects. So it's good na medyo dense siya. And then yung Takeda report itself was also super dense and it was like 167 slides, di ba? So meron naman mga high value reports na ganun that companies are willing to pay a lot of money for. I think for some of the Takeda reports, we charge like $500,000 for one report. So
God.
pwede naman ganun. Medyo madami lang
No.
trabaho pero we earn from it.
Yeah. Okay. So so far kung ganito nakarami, ilang analyst kaya yung mag-handle nito and gaano katagal nilang gagawin?
Ako, feeling ko kasi having done this myself, I think with practice, 2 analysts can make a report like this in probably 2 days with practice. Kasi yung sketch engine stuff, for example, this is really fast. It's the discussion that will probably take the most time. This is also
Yeah.
quite easy to make. Parang yung pinakamatagal na siguro yung mga ganito.
Mm-mm.
But I feel like with practice, 2 analysts who have a firm grasp of the tools should be able to make this in 2 days. And I think that's commercially viable kung ganun yung time.
Alright. Feeling ko matagal dyan yung may mga Gephi na
Oh, yung mga
network.
Gephi. Oh. Especially if it's new to you, kailangan mo talaga mag-practice din.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, Carlos, so 2 days, 2 analysts, and then itong type of report is designed to be like the Takeda ₱500,000 report, tama ba?
It could be like that. But then we could also have simplified versions where we charge less. So I think
So
this
parang
is like,
modular.
so parang this is like the full-blown most expensive version of the report. Maybe we can think of it that way. Because it's really long, it has so much analysis, it's quite complex. So we should charge commensurately. So baka ito yung pang 300,000 to 500,000. And
Wow.
then may kasi yung ibang
Training.
Takeda, like the partners in the States, they're really willing to pay a lot of money for some of the reports we've done. And they're actually simple compared to this. So I feel like this could be a high value product.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we were on Facebook and then ito yung timeline mo per theme. I'll just skip this because it's exactly the same as yung text analysis for Twitter and other platforms. The difference would be this here. Kasi on Twitter, well, it's just the difference is really just the screenshot. So on Twitter, there's a way to get a nice looking screenshot, di ba? Pero for Facebook, since we use CrowdTangle, these are what I screenshot. It just looks a bit neater. Wait. Ayan, yung mga to. Yan yung mga sinasama ko dito. Ayan. And then if there's a way for you to count, let's say yung mga duplicate na text. Kasi ito, like I explained last time, paulit-ulit to eh. I counted the number of times that I think I just parang highlighted a phrase and then I counted the number of times it appeared on Excel. And then that's how I got this number up here. Exactly the same, so I can skip this. Actually, itong n-grams, I would take this out. So I'll just hide this. Kasi meron na tayong key phrases, meron na tayong for combined, and meron na tayong key phrases and keywords for per theme. So hindi ko masyadong nakita yung value nito eh. So I think we can disregard that for now. And then for Facebook, wala na tayong stakeholder mapping na ganito. Just because it's not the way Facebook works. And in any case, it's so hard to get data from Facebook. And so that's why instead of all of these slides, yung may fast influencers, yung may ego networks, yung may clusters, wala na tayong ganyan for Facebook. It's just the most engaging profiles. So it's very simple compared to Twitter. Paramihan lang ng engagement. And then if you download the stuff naman from CrowdTangle, again, you can just use pivot tables and then see how much engagement each of these profiles got. And then just put in the relevant data here, information here. So ganun lang yung stakeholder mapping for Facebook. And then here, there's just another slide here where I put the screenshots. Actually, wala na kasing maisip for Facebook, so I felt na it would be useful to have something like this here. So yun, Facebook is quite a bit simpler than Twitter. And then Reddit is also very similar to Facebook. Yun, interactions, post in how many subreddits, how many comments and likes. Ito, exactly the same. Exactly the same. So I put this interaction breakdown here. This is optional also. You could, ano ba yung ginawa ko sa iba? Yeah, may interactions breakdown pala ako nilagay sa iba. So you could do that here. Provided din naman yan sa Excel files. So you can, it's very easy to make. And then the rest, alam nyo na yan, coverage drivers for each of the themes. Followed by yung per theme. So coverage drivers for each of the themes. And then here, it depends. You could put a screenshot, but the reason why I put the full text here is galing siya sa Reddit eh. So mukha lang siyang forum, di ba? If you've been on Reddit. So I just copied the text and put it here instead, and then highlighted the bits that I found the most striking. Identify the Redditor, yun yung kulang dito. And then for the timeline, instead of just the number of posts, I also included the number of interactions. So you could do it that way. Okay. No need to explain this. It's exactly the same. It comes from Sketch Engine. I've also already explained how you do this. So this is in Word Sketch, diba, on Sketch Engine. So again, to recap, go to Sketch Engine, go to Word Sketch, yun. Put in the word that you want to analyze, and then an easy way to determine is what is the topic. Here, we're talking about Tesla. So it makes sense na Tesla yung gagamitin. Or you could also look here and then choose one of the highest scoring ones to do the word sketch for this one. So just as an example, let's use Tesla. Click on Go. Ayan na yung mga different grammatical relations mo. Click on this to visualize. That's it. You can include more words like that. I include the score circles like that. And I remove the main word kasi alam naman natin na Tesla yung main word. So ganyan. And that's this. And then here I just put concordance again. So by, it's also very easy to do it from Sketch Engine. So let's say we want to look at by. Hindi mo pala pwedeng i-click. Kala ko pwede mo i-click. So you can just go to concordance like this and then put by. Ayun. And then just copy, paste it here. Yun na yun. This one would be just screenshots of this. Of the word sketch. But there might be a better way of presenting it. Nada-download naman tong lahat sa Excel eh. It's just that medyo tinamad na ako dito actually. So, naman lang siya. Screenshot ko lang siya. But you could of course create your own charts in Excel if you wanted to. Okay, so this one, I also showed you how to do that on CrowdTangle, but it's word sketch difference. So you need two. So case sensitive to so usually dapat lowercase. So for example, yon. And then click on this, it will show you that uh, that chart. And then ito yun. And then here, it's just more sample text, like how were those words used. So Dogecoin plus Ethereum, market plus SpaceX. Ayun. And then just refer to this to decide on what words you want to use. Okay. I'm not going to explain this for now kasi feeling ko medyo overwhelming na. So I'll skip the word pairs for now. Maybe we could do another session tomorrow. Feeling ko mabilis lang naman. Siguro 1 hour to explain this. Pero hindi ko naman na-explain dahil ang dami ko nang sinabi. Pero ito yung word pairs eh. Yung hinanap ni Doy ng word pairs. Tsaka yung semantic network. I'll explain that tomorrow. Most engaging subreddits, that's already all in the raw data that you get from CrowdTangle. So pivot table din lang to. And then you can design the chart this way. If you have specific questions on how to make it look this way, then you can just ask her. I'm sure you can figure it out also. And then dito, just some details on the top subreddit. So nakita natin na news, super stonk, tsaka technology. So just some details here. And then this one, I just copied the description on the subreddit. What's this? Sample text. Copy paste lang from the data set. And then screenshots. Although baka hindi relevant to kasi Reddit, so I'll just delete it. Okay, finally, YouTube. Exactly the same again. Interactions, video channels, views, etc. The tool that we use for this, hindi ko pa na-explain masyado to eh. But it's YouTube Data Tools. And then, dami ko nang in-explain, baka nakaka-confuse na. Should I save this for tomorrow? Yung sa YouTube.
Sige, sure.
Yeah, I'll save it for tomorrow. Parang medyo madami ng kailangan i-process. And this is going to be another 2-hour video.
Okay. For tomorrow, same time, okay? 10 to
Yeah, same
12
time.
in the
Yeah,
morning.
same time
Oo,
works.
kasi sa afternoon yung regroup natin with Doy, Ben, and Chris.
Yeah.
I initially scheduled it at 2 p.m. Okay ba kayo lahat doon? So yung agenda is Sean's project dun sa formulas, and then we will present yung updates natin sa Tesla Universe kay Ben at Chris. Ayun. So 2 p.m. sounds good?
Yeah, works for me. What about the rest of the team?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Sige. I'll send the invite later.
Okay. Before we end, any questions? Kung wala, I will upload the video again on YouTube kapag okay na. So I'll upload that later. Send you the link, and then I'll also put together that Google Drive of the files. I'll try to label the files correctly and then organize it well, and then I'll also share access to that later this afternoon.
Okay. Para din ma-check namin saang file namin kukunin yung data for creating the missing slides for the themes.
Yeah, and then sama ko na rin yung mga ganito, yung parang sample calculation
Yep.
na
Mhm.
files. So you can also just copy the formulas.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, Carlo, perhaps we could develop lang parang a sort of manual.
Yeah.
Pwede siyang kunwari, instead of Word doc, pwede siyang yung slides na yan. Pero kada element ng isang slide, parang merong parang speech bubble or something na dito mo siya kukunin, dito sa file na to, this is what you do to para lang kasi of course the training is really good, the recording we can go through that, pero mas mabilis kasi if we parang scroll down documentation to get tips.
Yeah, that's a good
So
idea.
I can help with that. Ano?
Sige, I'll let you know na lang siguro if I need help.
Okay.
But I can start it. I can take the lead on that.
Okay.
And then share ko
Got
na rin lang siguro mamaya.
Mm-mm. Sige. Thank you so much, Carlo.
Carlo,
Yeah.
can I ask a question after this call? Quick lang then.
Sure.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Anyone else? Okay, kung wala na, I guess that's it for today. Let's have another one tomorrow. I hope it's not too overwhelming, pero I'm sure you can wrap your heads around it naman once you actually sit down and try it yourselves.
Naiisip
Ayun.
ko lang,
Yeah.
Carlo,
Yep.
kung well, I'm not sure yet kasi hindi pa namin natatry hands-on to create the slides. Pero since bukas, merong training sa umaga, merong meeting sa hapon, parang ang lalabas sa Monday lang, parang one day lang yung magiging time for them to create the report kasi ipe-present na siya sa Tuesday. So, should I ask for an extension or Kidoy?
Maybe let's see how much we can accomplish on Monday.
Okay.
And then let's decide by that afternoon what kind of extension we'll need. Kasi it's possible naman na may magagawa tayo on Monday and that's what we present on
Yeah.
Tuesday, even if it's not the whole thing yet. But
Okay.
if we can just demonstrate that the team knows more or less how to
Yeah.
create the slides, then I think that's the most important thing.
Mhm. Okay, sige.
Yeah.
Okay. Ayun, that's it for me.
So siguro i-expect nyo na lang na medyo mabigat yung Monday natin. Tulong-tulong na lang.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah. And sige, usap na lang tayo ulit offline kasi aside from this, meron pa tayong Greenpeace report. So, let's see. Na Monday din supposedly, pero pinollow up ko na kay Kat, 'di ba sabi nila yung contract was supposed to be ready by yesterday. Until now, wala pa rin. So, it would be understandable naman if malilate tayo na hindi makasubmit on Monday kasi yung delay was from their end.
Yeah,
Ayun.
that's completely understandable. Like, really, we shouldn't be working without a signed contract.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Oh.
Yes. Ayun. So, yan lang guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, Carlo. Salamat.